What's up, y'all? We're here for our weekly anchor message where we take a look at our spiritual lessons for the week. I'm using the Wild Unknown Archetypes Oracle for this, clarifying with the Mystical Moments Tarot. So from the archetypes, we got the Starborn, we got Fault Line, and then we've got the Desert. Underneath Starborn, we had the Magician. Underneath Fault Line, we have Five of Wands. Underneath Desert, we have Queen of Pentacles. And then as a conclusion, I went ahead and pulled a card, and these two came out together, and it was the Feminine King of Swords and Six of Pentacles. Okay, so let's dive in. So first of all, this week is Rosh Hashana. We're finally here, you guys. I know I've been talking about it for several weeks now because we've been in a period known as Teshuvah. It also coincided with our Venus in retrograde for 40 days, and then followed by the Mercury retrograde that is happening now when Venus went direct and then Jupiter went retrograde. So this has been a time of deep self-reflection and self-evaluation in preparation for Rosh Hashana. Rosh Hashana is the birthday of all mankind, the souls of all mankind. It's the day that the physical world was created. It was the story of Adam and Eve in the garden where the fall happened, and the separation from the wholeness and oneness with the Creator happened in that fall. And so every year on the birthday of Adam Kadmon, the birth of all souls, we go through like an annual judgment day where we sort of go into court, the spiritual court, and, we're evaluated based on our growth and our self-awareness and what we did to progress during the last year. And then, that's why we want to do kind of this deeper self-evaluation when we're showing up for the day, because this is a chance to where we get like a new soul for the year. Like we get all of this blessing and light that comes in through this high holiday. And it's sort of like the judgment kind of happens to see where you're at, what kind of challenges that you still need for the year ahead in order to really transcend these parts of the soul, how far you've come since last year. It's like, what do you need in your year to come to progress you, but also to bless you and provide for you as well. Provide for you all that you need, not necessarily what you think you want. So this evaluation is helping us also because when we get that kind of like that new soul, all of that new light that comes in, it's like our spiritual bank account for the year. These are the miracles and the blessings and the opportunities that can happen. So when we have all of this light waiting to come in, so when we get this clean soul, we don't want to like trip ourselves up the very next day and get it all smudged up with the same old self-defeating tendencies or limiting beliefs or our old programming or negative patterns that we play out. So that's why we want to prepare our consciousness to put our best foot forward. Now for the next 3 weeks, the surrounding light of this creator energy is still kind of lingering around. And basically all of this light is coming in, and we need to let it set like concrete. And so the challenge is not to have a big, blow a big fuse or have a big meltdown or, backslide in some big way. do like a big reactive thing that happens, and then you kind of like blow your wad, or you set yourself up like with a challenge right away. So we're trying to avoid that. Now, because like all of this light is beginning to gather, because it's going to be coming in over the next few days, the opponent is like, ooh, it's like ants to sugar. It wants all of this sparkly, glittery, sugary potential, light of potential and miracles that's surrounding us right now. And so the opponent is coming in and it's trying to trip us up. Our egos will be tested this week. We might be tested with fear, lack, doubt, uncertainty, shame, feelings of wondering if we deserve, and so that's where this desert is coming in. It reminds me of Jesus in the desert. When Jesus was fasting in the desert for 40 days, he was tempted by the opponent 3 times. And that was that was when Christ was preparing himself to be the sacrificial lamb for Passover, essentially, during the crucifixion, right? That was going to prepare the Christ to be the perfect sacrifice. So much like right now, we're trying to prepare ourselves and, fast from our tendency of reaching for instant gratification, pacifying the flesh, pacifying the ego. So the ego is going to be lurking, right? That's the tool that the opponent uses against us. And we just have to be extra vigilant to try to stay in a state of trust with the Creator, of love, of positivity, of sharing. Our purpose is to become a greater vessel of sharing the light, right? And so if we just make that our focus this week, and like come hell or high water, let your ego get bruised, whatever, if your thing that you need to correct is not being walked all over, then maybe you need to speak up in a kind and proactive way that's spiritually sound. However, sometimes the practice of restriction is asking you to maybe not say something. So there's some discernment that has to happen there. Either way, with the Starborn card, this has to do with our destiny. This card talks about it. To me, in Hebrew language, it ties into the concept of tikkun, which is our soul blueprint for this life. And basically, our tikkun has this map of, basically, it looks like our natal chart. It's kind of represented in our natal chart. For the astrological natal chart, it talks about your strengths and the challenges you'll face, and certain major plot points that may occur during certain times of your life. Your tikkun is basically your process of soul correction, of balancing these governing forces. So part of these are like your soul contracts to play out in this life. The fact that your parents were chosen before you came here, you helped choose those. You picked people who would challenge you and provoke you in the right ways to evolve your soul in the ways that it needs to be evolved. And many times the things that do that for us are not the positive, fluffy, frilly, some people get that with the parents, but they have their problems with the parents too. Other people have challenges. We decide before we come, where we're going to live. That will affect like the kinds of environment that we are raised in, and it will affect our strengths and weaknesses, so that will interplay into the tikkun correction. The friends we have, the poignant lovers that we have in our lives, those things sometimes are predestined to happen. But what you do with the fate, it's like fate is dealt to you, but what you choose to do with that hand is the destiny that you choose for yourself, that you create. And that's why we take a proactive role every year in Rosh Hashana, because we're basically shaping the destiny for the year ahead. we're saying, okay, I'm going to proactively get in there in my soul. I'm going to get to those hard to reach places, and I'm going to make sure that I don't have lingering darkness that's going to be holding me back for the year, that's going to be sabotaging my potential. Like, I want this to be the year where I align with that higher self version of me, where I can jump that timeline and be on a better version of the year than I had last year, right? You might have different versions of this year that can play out depending on, the way that you proactively show up during this time, during Rosh Hashana, after the fact. But this is the most important time that's going to sort of set the tone for the year ahead. The things that are happening to you in the month leading up to Rosh Hashana, and I don't want to make this like Rosh Hashana is not just for Jewish people. It's happening to everyone. And this is a universal energy that comes through. Whether you are, a Hebrew person or not. So don't think that you're left out just because you're not actively, consciously practicing Rosh Hashanah. Even just knowing that energy is available to you and trying to put your consciousness and your heart and your soul in alignment during this time is going to help you. Before, I knew a lot about Rosh Hashanah and I just knew the basics of the outline, like I'm telling you guys now. That even changed my year, just being aware of it during those days. So there are probably, part of our tikkun, this soul healing and these soul contracts, involves certain challenges that will follow you throughout your life. They'll be on brand for you. You may have found that you're challenged in certain areas consistently, and you may have very similar lessons come back and circle around again and again. You may even notice, if you think back, that during August and September every year, similar things play out. They might even be with the same people. They might even be going back to the same locations that aren't even where you live or things like that. There's going to be certain weird synchronicities that line up that will give you deeper clues into what it is that's being offered up to you as an opportunity, as an assignment for evaluation, for correction, for evolution. Now, another thing that we need to make a point here is by saying that the thing about the opponent is that the opponent will come in and trip you up once, like with the initial bite of the apple with Adam and Eve. The thing is, the female opponent will come back for the second hit, and the second hit is when you lose the points for real. And the second hit is, the female opponent's trick is to make you feel like shit, to make you feel total shame, to make you feel worthless, undeserving. Those aren't the same as feeling like you've done wrong and you have remorse and you want to make amends or make a change. Those kinds of feelings are taking it on as almost like an identity, and that lowers your vibration, and that separates you from the light because you no longer have affinity with the light of the Creator. Creator doesn't feel shame and doesn't cast shame. The Creator is eternally unwavering, giving, sharing of the light, of compassion, of love, of mercy, of favor, of understanding. It was Adam and Eve's fall. The fall was created by the shame, right? And the fall, what that was, the fall from the Garden of Eden was before the fall, before the sin, before the bite of the apple, before doing what they knew they weren't supposed to. We didn't have a physical reality yet. It was more of these spiritual soul energies and beings interacting, and there wasn't a physical, there were things to look at and all of that, but there was no need to actually eat food or do physical labor. Everything was in its perfection. We were completely one with the Creator still in this limbo, almost in the astral realm. So when the fall happened, Adam and Eve in their shame put on clothing, right? The clothing is our flesh. The clothing is the physical process. That is when we had to come here and toil and break wheat to make bread, because we were no longer in affinity with the light. But the thing is that separation created the physical existence, the physical realm. We wouldn't have physical experiences on earth without that fall, without the mistake, without that initial sin. And so it was almost as if that part was always intended to happen, so there would be a process for us to enter into, or else there is no purpose for earth to be here. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be incarnate. We would just be in the spiritual. There would be no need, there would be no function for us to come here. We're not just here for the pizza, believe it or not. So we shouldn't shame ourselves, but also that doesn't absolve ourselves from our responsibility. We're all assigned this density in this life that we are meant to alchemize and transcend and up-level and elevate these sparks of light. And the thing is that when we're in the other side, when we're in the non-physical, we can't correct where we're at on the soul level. We're just there because it's required that we come here and interact with each other, the difficult people, the other people. That gives us something to elevate with. We have to interact. We have to be provoked and overcome, and challenged and overcome, and we have to give and share with one another and learn, and so without our flaws, there wouldn't be a purpose to be here. So we can let go of that feeling like we're damned, right? Like we're just cursed, like we're evil and despicable and trash. Like we can let go of that kind of, like, that classic Catholic guilt is what people call it. They kind of refer to it like that, religious guilt. And instead just embrace the process, because the more that we lean in and do this correction, the more we're going to be unburdened by the things that have been holding us back from more fulfilling living, from more fulfilling experiences, from a more fulfilling version of ourselves to live life and create life from. And then the more that we heal these things within us, the less that we're living from a state of reaction to everything, like this automatic, like instinctual defense response. And so then we're rising above this animalistic lower consciousness, and we're actually being liberated and freed and given the chance to practice our sovereignty of free will. When we can pause with some self-control and evaluate our situation and proactively choose how we want to show up in it, then that's when we're starting to become that higher version of humanity, when we're starting to embrace our humanity along with our divinity as well, and they work together, and it's even more powerful. The angels are like an example of perfected energy with no physicality needed, but they also have like a one-track mind. They don't necessarily have free will the same way that we do. They're servants to us. They're here to help us and work on our behalf. So our humanity gives us like an edge from the angels. The fact that things are harder for us, that they're not perfectly easy, that makes us more badass to the upper realms, because we actually have to put some grit and some skin in the game, and it's not easy, and it's not just handed to us and given over, right? So yeah, that gives us a preciousness, a sacredness. And so it's not that to say that we're not flawed. Our hearts can be deceitful. They have a shadow side. They have a side that needs to be healed. But the perfected, pure heart that's connected to the Holy Spirit, that's connected to that bridge where the Christ center lives, that part of the heart, that from the bottom of our heart, that's that pure heart where that star lives. one time I was having a dream and I was in outer space and I was perched on this like meteor, and I was looking at this huge like white blue star, and this presence was next to me, and it wasn't visible, but I knew that it was God. And God, but it was like the Christ energy as well. It was like that both together. And God, the Christ energy, looked at me and said, "This is the star inside of your heart." And it just is like the deeper you go in, the further out you get. You know, it's like when you look into a microscope and you see the infinitesimally small atomic particles, and the fact that there are spaces between them that are equivalent in scale to light years. And it's like, oh, this feels so solid. It feels so definite. It feels so real. And yet it isn't. It's mostly just light and empty space that's very changeable, very malleable. So there are things right now that are playing out that are kind of destined to play out. And so it's just, you know, do your best to be discerning and tune in and ask for divine guidance. Ask for the Creator to help you be strong, to help you be clear, to help you be certain, to help you be discerning. Because, you know, as part of the challenge, it feels like the pressure is so high right now. The fault line, it talks about this sense of precariousness, this pressure that's building, this this crack that could happen at any minute. And this is sort of like, this is very related to the Tower card in the tarot, where big change or sudden change could happen, or it feels like it could. Energy is shifting in a major way, and it's like, don't try to stop the changes that are trying to happen from happening, because they're going to be for the highest good. There is another thing that was mentioned in this card, that it's like if there was some sort of rift with a loved one from very long time ago, that it may be time to heal the crack, the fault line that has been, the crack that has been formed as a result of that, which can tie in to the things that are happening this time of year. Teshuvah is all about, you know, going back, doing acts of atonement and compassion and making amends and things of that nature. And so there may be relationships that are coming up that need to be mended, or that need to be addressed, or that need to be released this week. The desert, again, it feels like things are very dry and strenuous, but there are ways to adapt within the desert that make the inhabitants there even more resourceful, even stronger, even more adaptable. It evolves. The heat, the pressure, it acts as something that evolves us. Without the heat and the pressure, we don't always grow. We don't always change. Many times the comfort level can cause us stagnation, and it can then go into toxicity. So don't be afraid if you feel like you are in the desert right now. If you feel precarious, like it could all just slip out from beneath you. It's the illusion right now of the opponent, and it's a destined assignment that the Creator has the opponent do this to test us, to tempt us. Because ultimately the purpose of this nemesis, this enemy, is to progress our soul's elevation. Without that, there's no process, there's no earning of the light that's coming in that is elevating our consciousness. This is not exactly the same as being born again through asking Christ into the heart. This is like a yearly, like, you participate in this. This is not a one and done, like asking Jesus into your heart and being saved to go to heaven. Now, even then, I have my qualms with that. I don't think that you have to earn your way to heaven. I think that if you accept Christ as your Savior, we don't know exactly what happens in the afterlife, but I do think that that does save your soul. It does save your spirit. However, I think that there's more to it that you can bring depending on your fervor and your desire. But for me, being a Christian, and that word has a lot of baggage around it these days. So I even like to refer to myself as a disciple of Christ, because I believe that in order to start to embody that consciousness, it takes participation with us. It takes discipline, practice, constant checking in with the self. Where am I at in my consciousness today? So yes. So again, the opponent showed up and challenged Jesus in the desert, right? Even Jesus didn't get out of this. So don't feel like, why is this always happening to me? Oh, why am I being tested like this? Don't take it personally. Just know it's just part of the rules of the game. When you play Mario, you're not like victimized by the little mushroom men. You're not victimized by the challenges of the levels where, you know, the one where you have to like bounce onto the wooden blocks and then they fall and like that's just, you just need to anticipate that that's going to come, and that's going to make you a better player in the game, because you can then strategize and anticipate the challenges that might be coming. So underneath Starborn, we've got the Magician. So I feel like right now we have the tools, the resourcefulness to set our consciousness on what we want to create, what we want to shape for our year. We have the opportunity to do this. It's like we've got all the elements in order. If you're watching this now, at least you're armed with even at the very last minute, like, okay, just try not to get tripped up this week. But yes, so we have everything that we need to make what we want happen in the physical. What we need to do is make sure that our consciousness is there in the non-physical. That is the final key. We want to make sure that this week we have our mind set and trained on the results that we want. Remember to be in alignment with your goals. If I'm getting triggered, like tonight at work, we were really busy, and I'm like, and my tables were like super needy, and like they were very pushy. It was like, it was so crazy that I was like, this is like a cartoon. This is hilarious. Ha ha ha, universe. Like, this is ridiculous. They were so, like, people, like, they would be like, calling me over, and I wouldn't even be able to like give them the initial greet or like get their drink orders before they would just be like, tell us all your favorite things. And then everybody else at the table was like talking over each other, yelling at me, like being like, let's talk about this now. And I'm just like, oh my God, if you would just let me pace you. And I wanted to like yell at people tonight. I wanted to yell at my tables because they were so gauche. But I was like, no, I can't. I can't blow a fuse right now. Like, I can't lose it, because I'm not going to fuck up the rest of my year. I just had to like just blow it off and laugh it off this week. But yes, so it's like, it would not have been in alignment for me in that moment to go into a downward spiral of getting angry and feeling like set against and like, oh, these people, they're disrespecting me, blah, 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 you know, and it's all this sob story. I just laughed it off. I'm just like, oh my God. And you know what? They were really nice people. They just weren't self-aware, right? But I could have like, you know, started like off on a bad foot with bad energy underneath. And then we may have had more conflict at the table, and it may have become abrasive. But instead, like, they had a good time. We all had a good time. You know, they were nice people. 5 of Wands is coming up with the fault line. So feeling precarious, feeling the pressure, feeling like everything is like cracking underneath you. The 5 of Wands, I mean, you can see this woman. It's like her dress has become the checkerboard. And there's all these opposing forces like coming at her at once. 5 to be specific. And it's like, think about your life right now. Are there 5 challenges? Do you have 5 irritants coming at your way? Do you have like different categories of people or circumstances or struggles that you've always been working on, but that are like still getting under your skin? Like that kind of thing right now. She's like, oh God, it's difficult. It's challenging. I'm feeling the pressure of this. I've got to figure out how to get all of these pieces, and how to handle these challenges, right? And so, yeah, it does feel challenging right now, but this is the challenge of this week. It's like using that discernment and practicing self-control and not blowing a fuse and like having a big earthquake moment right in the final rounds of the game, right? So, as you're feeling challenged, embrace the challenge. There's nothing that can earn you more points in spiritual warfare with the opponent like embracing the challenge. Oh, you just took someone's fire. Like, you took all of the freaking wind out of the opponent's sail when you did that, when you do that, right? So embrace the challenge. The Queen of Pentacles underneath the desert is again reiterating the idea that we have everything that we need to meet the situation. The challenge will be thinking that it's something that we need to take physical action, like to resolve. Because the Queen of Pentacles, like the thing that we need to take away from Queen of Pentacles right now is that we need to stay grounded and we need to stay on our game and we need to keep working on our goals, keep nurturing ourselves, stay on top of our kingdom, but also don't be completely consumed with material concerns. Also, don't try to solve these challenges that come up this week. Don't meet it with a physical band-aid. Search deeper, go below the surface. The thing that needs to change is something from an internal level. It's something on a vibrational level. It's something on a spiritual level. It's something on an emotional level. It's something on a subconscious level that needs to change. If you address simply the physical problem and the physical symptoms playing out, that it's just going to put a band-aid. It's putting chewing gum in the hole in the boat. It's not really solving the problem. It's just masking it. The Creator is asking us to go deep. So we have to go deeper than just taking care of the physical issues. We need to see what is the root of them to start with. And so the good news is, though, is that the Queen of Pentacles is very adept with all the categories: spiritual, physical, emotional, mental. So you have everything that you need again, but this is going to come down to intention and going in and getting honest about what's going on inside. Five of Wands is not exclusively an outer conflict. Sometimes I feel that this also speaks to a Kabbalistic concept known as a conflict of desire, interconflicting desires, where you may want one thing on the outside, but you have like this underlying fear that kind of cancels out the thing that you want. Like, the easiest example is to say you're single and you want a relationship and you want commitment, but you fear commitment and you fear that you're going to be hurt, and you are afraid that if you really open up your heart that someone is going to disappoint you, and maybe it will, like, either they'll cheat on you and you'll never be able to trust again, or it'll take all your freedom and you won't be able to like be yourself anymore, and you'll have to like always be answering to this person, or you won't have free time for what you want. So it's like, yeah, in a one way it's like you want a relationship, but in another there's like all these underlying issues where it's like, yeah, but like this kind of is conflicting to that, interest as well. So it's like, again, search yourself. Are there inner conflicting desires coming up? Are there inner conflicts coming up, inner fears that are getting in the way of the things that you want, the things that you're trying to call in? And then let's see, underneath the everything, we got King of Swords, and it's the feminine King of Swords, and we've got Six of Pentacles. So with the court cards in this particular deck, the Mystical Moments Tarot, there's one extra court card added, which in every deck, which is the feminine kings of each suit. There's the page, the knight, the queen, the king, and then the feminine king in this deck. In a traditional tarot deck, the king represents the most evolved of that suit. They're kind of like stepping stairs. Like the page is the least mature, the learning. The knights are a little bit more mature. They're taking action, but they're more adolescent. The queen is very mature, and she is the mature expression of the divine feminine virtues of that suit. And then the king is the self-mastered version of it. Includes, like, the queen includes all the page energy and the knight energy, and then she includes, she's come all that way. The king has the queen and the knight and the page's progression within the king. The feminine king of swords is like the ultimate marriage of the masculine and the feminine within. The king is like the divine masculine culmination of the traits of that suit. Sorry, I misspoke a minute ago. Like the queen is the divine feminine traits. The king is the divine masculine traits of that suit. And then the feminine king of swords, to me, says this is full mastery in, obviously we're always work in progress. So we have our moments, right? But in this situation, it's like you're successfully marrying the masculine traits of swords, which is the intellect, which is ideas, with the feminine aspect of the sword suit, the mentality, the mental landscape, your thought realm, right? So this is someone who can not only see clearly what needs to be done and has a sense of authority that can take action. This is someone's like level-headed and a very astute, very intelligent, very good at communicating, can take authority. But the thing that elevates this queen above the other queen and king, this feminine king, is that she is a master of being able to effectively communicate ideas. So again, there may be a situation this week that requires you to communicate, that requires a heart-to-heart or a difficult conversation. Maybe there's a toxic relationship dynamic in your life that rears its ugly head again and tries to like fuck with you, trigger you into the same old patterns and the same old dynamics again. And you're gonna have to, in a way that has the most affinity with the light, that's not destroyer consciousness, but from a consciousness of sharing and creator consciousness, do your best to proactively set a boundary, communicate a truth, but it needs to be done in a way that's not going to break down or destroy. It can be done with love. It can be done with honesty, but with clarity. But there may be things that need to be communicated or discussed, right? The talent of this queen or this king, this feminine king of swords, is that she can speak from the heart in a compelling way that inspires unity rather than division, that inspires healing, or that inspires people to accept her ideas and then get behind her and support her on those ideas. So the Six of Pentacles is about equal exchange, mutual sharing. This can be donating or a charitable act. So to me, again, this is about becoming a greater vessel, for the light, being generous of spirit, trying to balance the scales in relationship dynamics or situations in your life that are out of balance, right? If you are over giving to people or situations that aren't giving you in return at all, then that needs to be adjusted. If you're not giving enough, or maybe you're showing up in a situation and you are doing the physical acts of sharing, but you're pissed off in your mind about it, that's a perfect example of, yeah, you might be doing the act of sharing, you might be doing the physical thing to address the physical issue, but underneath in your vibration, there's like bitterness, and there's like there's resentment there, right? So it's like, that's what we're searching for within, is to be a greater vessel of the light for sharing. It's like we need to start from the inside out. So yeah, again, making sure that instead of going into a situation immediately wondering what's in it for you, or like how you're being, like what you're getting in return, or I want to get mine. And it's hard not to be that way many times. It's hard not even to realize that we're being that way, especially in these modern ages where it's like we're always trained to be like hustle culture, competitive, blah, blah, blah. But instead of asking what the situation give to you, ask what the Creator would have you share. There's a portion in the Course of Miracles that says, I am here to be truly of service. Creator, tell me where to go. What would you have me do? What would you have me say, and to who? Right? So if you are being truly of service to the light and you're sharing, it's like, think about that when you go into any situation, any conversation, anything at all. Am I showing up as a taker in the situation, or am I showing up as a giver? This can be compared to, say you're at a board meeting or some kind of meeting at work, and it's going long and it's really done, but somebody's there, or like, say it's you're just like, I feel like I should have said something and I didn't. And, or I feel like I want to be heard, or I want to feel important. And so even though you don't really have anything real to contribute, or you don't have any like innovative idea to share, it's just like, maybe you just start talking to feel like you just wanted to cover your bases or whatever. And even though on the outside, it looks like you're sharing, the inside, you're taking. You're not giving in that situation. You're taking energy. So yes, just think about that as you're moving forward through the week. Try not to get, it's okay if you get triggered, but try to move through that and do it in a way that you're workshopping it with yourself. Pause. Go deeper into the feeling. Don't deny the feeling. Don't suppress it, but just explore that. Try to observe it without getting caught up in the drama of believing the story. Don't get caught in the plot. Just try to observe, like, what am I telling myself here? What's really going on? Where is the opponent in this? And where is the light in this? Because the light is over everything. The light knows that the opponent is coming in to challenge you. The light has set this up essentially. And so it's up to you. How are you going to show up in the situation? If the light is supervising you right now, what would the light be glad to see you do or say or not do? So it's a tough one, but we're almost there. So just hang on a little longer. The new moon of Virgo is Wednesday. And on the new moon of Virgo, the tradition or the ritual is to cast your sins into a chicken or a goat and slaughter it. But we don't really do that. So we're going to cast our sins into bread and throw them into water. It's great if it's moving water, like a creek or something, where you can like literally wash your sins away. But yeah, you're going to throw all that stuff that you've been thinking about. What do you want to change in yourself? What do you really want to give up and not go through again? What lessons do you really not want to repeat again next year? And what can you do within yourself to grow so that you don't need those lessons? You don't need them again this year. What can you do? And so we're going to throw those in the water, right? And so then the next day, starting at sunset, that's when that light starts coming in. And that's when the traditional ritualing starts, and that's when the initial feast happens. So yes, so then there's the Thursday, Friday, or let's see. I feel like I'm celebrating Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So I think that the new moon is on Thursday, the 14th is when it is. And then Friday is Shabbat's the first day of Rosh Hashana. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is the last bit of it. So just be aware over this week, challenges may come. You may feel fear, lack, doubt, scarcity, but it is your opportunity to choose stability, certainty, creator consciousness, cause consciousness, not effect consciousness. All right, you guys, and that could open up a whole nother can of worms, but we're 45 minutes in on just like a nice little nightly video here. So sorry I went over, sorry I went long, but a lot of this needed to be talked about because we don't want to trip ourselves up right before the big blessing. So just remember, all this sugary potential of miracles and blessing is surrounding us right now, and the devil fruit flies are out, right? The opponent is going to be there trying to intercept all of that blessing energy. So don't let yourself get tripped up into a short circuit. All right, y'all. Ciao.